Hey, what's up, everyone? It's David Hamilton, confidence and success coach, here today with my dear friend, amazing human being, awesome coach, Mr. Jason Goldberg. And today we're going to be talking all about wealth and service, confidence, how all these things apply so you can have more success in your life. So welcome, Jason.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me, dude. This is great. It's I don't get to see you enough anyway, so if we have to schedule an interview, this is probably not even a real interview. You probably just did this so we can hang out, right?
Yeah, man. I totally lied that this is going to go in front of people just because I want to hang out with you. So
thank God. So we can just have fun and just do whatever we want. That's even better.
Yeah, exactly. We can just be the jackasses that we are, which is going to happen anyway. It's already happening.
There goes the professionalness. We're done. We have no credibility as professionals.
But technically, jackass isn't a swear word, so it's quite professional.
Nice. Okay, never mind. I sit corrected.
So welcome, man. Honestly, I'm really thrilled not only to be here with you, but of who you are, who you've become, who you're becoming, and what you have to offer and help people with. So really, really grateful. And I know they'll be grateful too. And those that aren't, then they can just go away. So
well, I'm grateful too, man. I love you. I love the work you're doing. I love the way you show up. I love your smile and your beard. I was just telling you. So I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me on, man.
I know, man. I'm a powerful manifester of this beard.
You didn't even try. It just came to you.
Hey, that's the way it is for all of us, right? That's when things work out the best, is when that happens. So let's get into it, man. Let's tell, everybody who's listening, and tell me. I mean, I probably haven't heard, all of your story. Tell us how you got where you are today, where you've been, kind of that progression of the Jason Goldberg we see here before us.
Ooh, the progression of the JG.
Right.
Man, yeah. So I was a twinkle in my father's eye before he left my mom when she was 3 months pregnant, and I've never seen him. So it started back then. So I was raised by a single Jewish mother, right? So she can hear what we're saying right now. And I'm an only child, and was raised my entire life in Florida with her, just the two of us, and was just never really super popular. I was always super fat. That I had going for me. But for some reason, super fat and super popular just didn't go together for the most part. Have you ever heard about that? I don't know. Usually, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I was super skinny and super unpopular, so those go together too.
Okay, so it looks like the extremes. You're just screwed in general. Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm not alone. That's good. So I grew up, really never really being comfortable in my skin. I mean, literally, because I was always overweight. And I remember at 15. At the age of 15, I was 250 pounds, right? So I'm 6 feet. I'm 6'1" at the time. I was probably, 5'7", 5'8", but still 250 pounds for a 15-year-old kid. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And of course, the age of 15 is where kids are really like understanding and sweet and compassionate, right? So, no problem at all.
Natural Dalai Lamas.
Yeah, totally. They're all so enlightened. Maybe it was just my high school. But yeah, so I got picked on a lot. And what I did was back then, to kind of combat that and to protect myself, was I kind of developed this comedic personality, right? And so I started kind of being the funny guy, the class clown, because to me, if you're not the attractive guy and you're not the cool guy and you're not the popular guy, you're not the football guy, you're not the whatever guy that actually has something of value to give to people, then you got to find something. So for me, it was comedy. So I relied on, being the funny person, and that's how I felt I brought value to the world, to the people around me. And that worked out really well, and it served me, and I'm happy that I'm that way. So I'm glad that I went through that, and it really served me. And then as I got older, I was always pretty good in school. I was always academically fairly smart, and so I really focused on IT, information technology, and you and I have a lot of that same thing in common with being in the technology field. And so I got into technology very early, and ended up spending about 13 years, the better part of 13 years, in the IT industry, in the IT field. And finally, I was doing really well. I was, being raised by a single mother. We didn't have a lot of money, and I never wanted for anything. We were never homeless. There was always food on the table. I mean, obviously there was food on the table. I was 250 pounds when I was 15. That doesn't come from air. So it wasn't like that, but we never had a lot of money, and my mom was constantly stressing about money. And so for me, I figured the only way I'm going to be happy in life is if I make a lot of money, find a way to make a lot of money, because no money equals stress. So lots of money should equal no stress. So by the age of 26 or so, I was making six figures in technology. And at the same time, I had gotten up to my highest weight, 332 pounds, very, very stressed, very anxious, depressed, very high level of antidepressants, anxiety meds, and several times really, truly considered ending it all, man. I mean, I remember there's this one road in Orlando. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina now, but I grew up in Orlando. There was this one bridge I would have to drive over all the time in Orlando, over this one body of water in a city called Lake Mary. And I remember several times just being so sad and driving down this road and thinking, I could just throw the wheel to the right, and just off the bridge, and everything would be so much easier. And thank God I never went that far. And I had, love and support in different aspects around me. So it never went that far, but I felt that I got that. And it really wasn't until I was, 29, 30 years old, which is 5 years ago now, that I really started taking control of what all that meant, and realizing through my own growth and my own personal development and getting into reading and doing all the things that kind of all of us do, just dabbling in personal development, that I saw there was another way to be. And I was curious enough to try to test it out. I didn't think it was going to work, but I was like, all right, you know what? This feels like shit all the time. So it can't get any worse if I try something new. And I started down that path. And so, over the past 5 years, it's been a lot of me, I left IT finally 5 years ago, got into entrepreneurship, started a couple different more traditional companies, and then got into coaching. And that's what I do now full time, is the coaching, speaking, and training. And we can dive anywhere you want to from that whole thing. But I just wanted to give you kind of the background of where I've come from personally and professionally, and that I've had to do a lot of work to get to be able to sit here and enjoy some time with you today.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. I didn't know half of that. I didn't even know that you were raised by a single mother. You probably told me, but as I am notoriously bad at doing this thing called listening. So,
sorry, what'd you say?
Yeah, can you retell that again? Because I don't hear anything other than that. No. So, I mean, yeah, and the suicide thing too is, I mean, I'm glad you didn't. I think everybody here is going to be glad you didn't, because you have a story and powerful lessons to share from that as well. And I know a lot of people can relate at some point. I mean, I think everybody has had those kind of thoughts at some point if they've gotten down in the dumps. Yeah. Most of us don't do it. And a few unfortunate or confused, suffering people do, in that sense. And it's just a powerful story to me over here,
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, what was the day where you said, that's it with the weight? Or what, if there was a day, or what was that little progression? If we were to just cut in there it was like, I'm taking care of this.
Yeah. There's, for most of the transformations in my life, inward, inner and outer world transformations, I can't really pick out a day or a time or a point where things change, but the exception to that rule, or the exception to that is the weight loss part. So I remember it very clearly. So I was still in my IT position, and I was director of engineering and operations for a regional tech firm. And I'm sitting in my office one morning, and I went to go order something on Amazon online, and I was using my bank debit card, right? And it got declined. The card got declined. And I know there's money in the account, right? It's a debit card, first of all. So I know what's in my bank. It's not like it's a credit limit thing. I know what's in my account. So I knew there was a mistake. And because of the person I was back then, I was a very angry person. Like, I was always still like the funny, like joking around Jason that I am now. But when I would get angry, I would get set off, whether it was like water spilled on the table or my laptop was shattered. You'd get the same response from me. It would be this crazy big reaction of anger. And like, I was the kid who punched holes in walls and chased people in traffic if they cut me off, just really just set off from nothing. So of course, because I'm always looking for somebody to blame, that was like my whole MO back in the day, was who can I blame for whatever's going on in my world? It definitely isn't my fault. It's somebody else's fault. that as soon as my card got declined, I went right into who can I blame mode. Who can I blame? Who can I yell at? Why is this happening to me? Why is the world doing this to me? This whole, victim mentality. So anyways, long story short, too late, I know. So I go out into the lobby of the office building, and I'm stomping my feet, because when you're 300 pounds, you just stomp. You don't even try. So I'm stomping my feet, and I'm going out into the lobby, and I call Chase. I call my bank. Maybe I shouldn't say Chase, but they didn't do anything wrong, so it's okay. Chase was great. So I call Chase, and I get on the phone with Chase. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? What is wrong with you assholes? I can't believe you're doing this to me. I try to make a purchase. I know I have money in the account. What the hell is up? And they say, they go through the script. Oh, we're so sorry for the inconvenience, Mr. Goldberg. Let me check your account. And they start, typing away. And they say, oh, well, sir, we cut off your card because we saw what we thought was fraudulent activity. So, of course, now I shift even more into who can I blame? Who the hell stole my credit card number and is making purchases online? I'm just getting more mad and more mad. And she goes, I said, what are the fraudulent charges? And she goes, well, we see here 4 transactions at 4 different fast food restaurants in one day. And so we figured somebody stole your card and was testing it in different places to see if it would work so they could make bigger purchases. And I was silent because it was me. I had been to 4 different fast food restaurants in one day. So what I wasn't able to control on my own, a multi-billion-dollar bank said, you're cut off. You're done. You're done. You are done.
Yeah.
You are done. And my buddy Sean Stevenson says he calls that story the day the universe cut me off.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
And that was it. I was like, holy shit. Like I had nowhere to turn. I had no one to blame anymore. I was trying so hard to figure out who else I could blame. And in that moment, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't figure out who else to blame. And so it ended up being on me. And it didn't change that day, but something inside me shifted that day, which ended up leading to the changes that would have to be made.
That's a beautiful story. And how I see it is you still created it, the universe didn't. Mm-hmm. Because you chose to wake up to that, and the universe can't wake up to that, only you can. Mm-hmm. Because that gets reflected back, and that's how it works for all of us. It gets reflected back, and then it's like, and what will you do? And so you could have been like, that's bullshit, it was me. But you had a moment of realization is what I hear. You went, oh.
Yeah.
So you finally were the chooser and creator. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny because I would have said up to that point, I don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. Right. This is the way it is. And Seth Godin has a great quote that I always butcher. So I'm paraphrasing, but he says something to the effect of, saying you have no choice is the same thing as saying you had one easiest path in the moment. So you always have a choice. So when you think you don't have a choice, you actually are choosing. You're just choosing the path of least resistance in that moment.
Yeah.
So what happened for me there is that I finally woke up to the fact that the path of least resistance was not the only path available to me.
Right. Yes. And I would further, because I'm a provocative coach like this, say that was the path of least resistance now. Mm-hmm. That the path of least resistance became, this has got to stop.
Right.
That would be my take. That actually, the waking up was, it couldn't be any other path, because that's the path that you chose. Ooh, getting trippy. But anyways, however we see it.
I'm going to burn some sage real quick. Just give me a second. I'm just kidding.
You're going to what?
Burn some sage. I'm going to get this really woo-woo up in here.
Hey, are you seeing this? No. I'll show you woo-woo. No.
Wu-Tang.
I'll show you woo-woo-tang. Woo-woo-tang ain't nothing to fuck with. That's right.
We can say F words in this thing? Oh, man, this whole thing.
It's too late. I mean, we've been saying shit. Sorry. This is a colorful interview.
Earmuffs, kids. Earmuffs.
If you're easily offended, you're probably gone by now. So thanks for sharing that, man, because And I love that did ring true, that there was that moment. And isn't it amazing how we can remember those moments that were so life-changing and transformational? And it's clear as day. It's just clear as day. And life is never the same. And that possibility is always available to you, me, and everyone, especially when someone is really struggling with confidence, wealth, happiness, whatever, that possibility always exists. And to know that deeply makes it that much more easier to access that possibility. And you just clearly defined and showed that possibility in a powerful way that happened for you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. And that kind of is what guides my life now, is having that awareness that I get to choose in any given moment what my response is going to be to things, that I'm no longer, well, I won't say that. I'm not going to lie and make it sound like it's 100% great all the time. That, there are times where I definitely slide back into being a victim again, and I'm not taking ownership. But the difference now is that when I slide back into being a victim, I'm fully aware that that's what I'm doing. I could tell you in that moment, David, I am being a victim right now. And to take it a step further, I may not change anything. I may say I'm being a victim right now, and that's where I'm going to stay. I'm not going to shift into being an owner. Screw that. This is where I want to be. But I'm saying this is where I want to be. I'm choosing that that's where I'm going to be in that moment. Yeah,
the power of that. And either way, we're powerful. We're powerful. We create it powerfully as a victim. We're very powerful in creating a victim story. And we're very powerful in creating a disempowerment. It's a powerful thing. And we're powerful to create it empowering.
Yeah.
We're all powerful. And when we realize that, then it seems to, in my experience, open up to go towards the path of the owner or the creator more.
Yeah.
We have that choice, but it doesn't matter. It's powerful either way, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, it's true. You're very true. Very, very true.
So, you've really, since I've known you, gotten into working with Steve Chandler and really gone on this path of wealth and service. Confidence has been a huge thing for me in my life, and building more confidence, overcoming. And I work with a lot of people that struggle with that, especially in social situations. And I've come a long way, and I still have my upgrades to go, but it's miraculous where I've come to compared to where I used to be as well. Wealth is such a loaded word, and typically it associates with big money and billionaires and all this stuff. But as we've come to learn and grow and know more, especially from guys like Steve Chandler, wealth doesn't mean just that. It means a whole lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be curious to hear, what does wealth mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many elements of it. And it's funny. I've never said it this way before, but as you were saying the word wealth, for some reason, what occurred to me was literally a picture of a well, right? Like the beginning of the word wealth, well. And to me, wealth is anything that fills my well. So I may have a well that's made for money, and a well that's made for love, and a well that's made for learning and growth, and a well that's made for service and contribution, all these different things. So anything that can fill those respective wells, and sometimes they bleed into each other. So I can pour some of the bucket into the love well, and that spills over into the service and contribution well, which is great, right? If there's like some overlap. But yeah, so I don't think there's one definition. For me, it's anything that I can do, that I can provide, that then returns something to me that fills my well. And it's not, and it's not, even as I say that, it doesn't necessarily need to be returned. I can fill my love well by giving love, even if I don't receive love. Mm-hmm. Right. So I mean, it can be filled by receiving love too, but it's not a reciprocal causation thing. It's not a cause and effect. It's not I was just talking to my coaching group of these people that I have together that I'm working with. And we were just talking about stripping away this 3-word phrase of in order to, right? When we put in order to after something we're doing to serve.
That's right.
And then put wealth at the end. If we do service in order to wealth, we've screwed the entire equation, right? So wealth doesn't have to be an outcome. Wealth doesn't have to be a return. Wealth can be something we bring to or receive from a situation or anything we're doing in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And how I hear it is it's the same channel actually as well. The giving and receiving, it comes through the same channel. And I notice for me, the more I try to separate the give and receive, the more separated it feels instead of it's all one channel. Yeah. Then I have to worry less about receiving. Yeah. And when I do worry about receiving and getting, then it tends to be way more difficult. And not that we shouldn't be clear about what we want. That's a different thing to me, but it totally makes sense. And I like how you talked about the wells spilling over, and like, we can't know that our love well might help our money well. Like it seems, it can seem like, I think when we first come to this stuff, well, I got to focus on the money in order to get more money. I've got to focus on love to get more love, where, it's all blurred lines made up by how we see it anyways.
Right.
And so what's our definition that we like and that really helps us, or that we just like playing around in is, and I like that well. And just because I'm a geek with words sometimes, the root of wealth comes from wele, which is Old Middle English for well-being.
Oh, cool. So there is a well in there. That's awesome. Perfect. I had no idea. That's awesome.
So you already knew that.
I already had it inside.
And then you got some know-it-all like me coming along and explaining why.
I love you being know-it-all. Please, know it all. Know it all and then tell it all.
I guess, but it's a great example that we already all know it all.
That's true.
Without knowing it, right?
That is true. That is true. But and wealth does still mean money. Like I just like I don't, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Shaming in our culture has gotten out of fucking control, right? We have the skinny people shaming the fat people shaming the skinny people, the people who love money shaming the people who are spiritual, the spiritual people shaming the people who love money. It's all over the place. And then this newest one that I'm really kind of getting in tune with, I'm really getting more and more into Gary Vaynerchuk's work. I really just like him as a person, and I like how he shows up. And even him, who I love, he's hustle, hustle, hustle. And he doesn't necessarily do this, but a lot of people who are in that hustle, hustle, hustle mentality shame the people who don't work as hard.
Right.
And then the people who don't work as hard shame the people who are hustling, because how can you be a good family person if you're hustling? There's just so much shame. And it's like, who gives a damn? Just do whatever makes you feel good and whatever serves you and serves the world around you. I don't even know why I went on that rant. It just felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You channel a little Vaynerchuk there. I think you're starting to go Vaynerchuk because he's great.
David, this is what we're doing. David, hand gestures in your face. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, you're right. He does have that go work hard, but that fits his expression. And from one perspective, there is no denying hard work. This is my 9th day in a row working, and full days. Yeah. Right. Although I took a little more time off yesterday because I was just like, my body was like, I did a webinar on Sunday or whatever. But what I do find is if I try to split, I love what you're saying, split into hardworking mentality or don't work mentality, then my true expression in the moment doesn't show up. Those are both limits instead of just what is coming through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, that's a great distinction you're making that I want people to see, is that because I often, grew up with my mom saying, well, don't work too hard. You work too hard. And so then I have this resistance going on. Well, what's wrong with that? And so then I've gone the other side. Well, those strivers and achievers and this and that, but if that's in alignment, it's in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the natural thing that we do too, is I think that especially, I don't know if this is everybody, I don't want to generalize, but I think people that are high achievers or high performers, typically high performers, high achievers that are open to new ideas will test things out to extremes. And so there's a woman that I'm coaching. She's amazing. She's an entrepreneur of an 8-figure business, co-founder of an 8-figure business. And she was just really go. And we're talking about the power of really slowing down and creating space for herself. And so, of course, because she's a high performer, high achiever, I'm going to take off a week. Right now, she's going to go I'm going to take off. I'm going to disconnect for a week. And so I said, okay, all right, cool. Yeah, we'll try that out. That's great. I'm happy that you're open to it. 2 days in, she's like, I can't fucking do this. This is too much. Yeah. I said, that's fantastic. You were on this side. You said, oh, new idea. I'm going to go try this side. And then eventually you swing back to the middle and you kind of find your groove. And so for her, maybe it's now her new thing is she's doing 2-hour walks every other day in the morning, where there's no phone, there's no computer, there's no tablet, there's no nothing. And she's walking, and that's working for her. And it's in that middle, and it's in alignment with her truth, and it's helping. So I think we all do that, going to extremes, and then we find ourselves somewhere in the middle that works for us.
Yeah, and operating from the same way, because that's the high achieving version, is to go to the extreme and take 2 weeks off, right? When maybe it was just a little bit of peppering in the slowing down. And what I think is, when we look at people who are actually really results oriented, they won't care which way. And what we tend to find, I think, when we look at mind and coaching, is that the optimal path is not what it seems, and it isn't the striving, achieving, hardworking way. A lot of the time that we've been steeped in, not that work isn't there, but there's a path of least resistance is the way that the universe wants it to go. Yeah. In that sense. So removing limiting beliefs, all that stuff, blah, 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 right?
Right. Yeah. Totally.
And yeah, I love the Gary Vaynerchuk, Very Gaynerchuk.
Very Gaynerchuk. That can be, oh my God, dude, that would be the most awesome thing if you created a Twitter handle like that and started doing like your own, like whatever he did, do it as that other character, but he has to be something funny about him. Like he has to be like, he has to have like some thick German accent or something, like just something really crazy. I bet he would love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I am Very Gaynerchuk.
Yeah, exactly. It would be awesome, but I don't have time for that. You do it. How about you? So what about service? What does this service thing mean? You're a powerful coach working with these other people. Are you working only with coaches or coaches and entrepreneurs in your current group?
The group itself is just for coaches. Okay,
so you're working with other coaches, teaching about wealth and service, how to do what you've learned how to do and are doing. So what does service mean? Yeah.
So the program that I'm running is called Serve Your Way to Wealth. And so there's the two components right there, the service and the wealth. And it's, if I was really splitting hairs, I wouldn't have called it Serve Your Way to Wealth, because then it sounds like it's back to an in order to serve in order to create wealth. But right. I really meant it as a journey. Serve on your way to wealth, right?
Yeah, but serve in order to get catchy, wealth. So we like it.
Yeah, it's more catchy. Yeah, there's still some marketing brain in me from my old life, my old career. So the first thing we talked about actually as a group was, what service is and what service isn't. And there's a difference between, and this is really coach specific, so I don't know, this particular part may not be as valuable to people that are watching, but the whole element of service versus pleasing, right? Serving versus pleasing, doing what people want versus doing what people need. And so that's very important in coaching, to make sure that we're really serving people and doing what we think is really for their highest good, or to help them find what it means for them to live into their highest good. But for me, the word service, it's actually funny. It's funny to me because the word service doesn't always resonate with me. And I think it's probably because, my entire life, and probably the majority of people's entire lives, the one place we see the word service is after customer, right? Customer service. And
I'm thinking the gas station right now. So ding,
okay,
ding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and there's self-service or full service. So that's actually a little better, better than my example. But for me, customer service was always about like, the customer's pissed off. How nice is this person going to be to the customer when they're pissed off? And it's like, well, that's not the kind of service that I want to do. That's not big for me. I mean, there's an important part of that, but so for me, what resonates more sometimes is, in my mind, when I say the word service, I hear and I see the words make a difference, right? That's what I see, make a difference. And so the reason that make a difference works better for me is because making a difference can be deep and profound, where you blow away somebody's limiting beliefs and their life changes and something hugely transformational shifts in their world, everything changes. And it can also be making somebody smile. And it can also be sending somebody a funny video. And it can also be giving somebody a hug. And it can also be telling somebody their beard looks good. And to me, like I like to look at service in that way, as opposed to a service that you provide. I give you this, you give me that. This is my product or service, and you pay for that. That to me doesn't resonate with me, just like customer service doesn't resonate with me. But if we think about making an impact, right, as a way to show up in the world that allows us to then be doing the things that create wealth, that resonates more with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I made a difference yesterday going to the doctor to get my foot checked out, and these pretty old people, they must have been their late 80s, early 90s, were in the elevator, and I got off at the second floor, and they got out with me, and they said they wanted the first floor, and then I was like, no, and I was on my way to my car, I closed the door and realized, and I went back in there, pushed the elevator, waited for him, got him in the elevator, but it just felt right to me. So I did it.
Yeah. And let me stop you for 1 second. Did you do that in order to have something else happen?
No, I just felt right. No, I didn't.
There you
go. I just really enjoyed the experience and enjoyed their energy, and they were very lovely people. So that's where I'm just telling that as, something I resonate with what you're saying. And I'm curious, why is it important to make a difference? Because there's a lot of this make a difference stuff out there. And for a lot of people, it isn't. And, I remember, I think Werner Erhard is one of the first people I ever know of that really hit on that, and that coaching transformational thing, make a difference and make meaning. Why is that important? Why do you think that's important?
Yeah, I appreciate the rephrase at the end there, because I don't know why it would be important to anybody else.
Yeah.
For me, it's important because if I'm not doing that, then what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like that. And that actually, so what just popped in my head was when I said, why am I here? I for just a split second went back to the story, thinking about driving over that bridge and what I could have done. And I realized, transporting myself back to that moment, there was no thought of anybody else in that equation but me. Right. I wasn't making an impact for anybody else. I didn't give a crap about serving anybody else. And to me, that's a prime example. Like, I was in that low of a place in part because I probably wasn't doing anything for the greater good. And so it's not about being Mother Teresa, and it's not about, being this altruistic angel that roams the earth, solving people's problems. But to me, there is something that feels like it's missing if I'm not using what I have, whether that's comedy or whether that's coaching or whether that's an extra bottle of water for, whatever. If I'm not using the things that are available to me to try to make a difference for somebody else, then why the hell am I here?
Bam.
Bam. Drop the mic. Don't drop the mic.
Clarity, man. I love the clarity. That's powerful.
Thanks, man.
So, I get a lot of people coming to me about, well, one thing in particular, and it's one thing that I talk a lot about. It's one thing I sell, and it's what I call natural confidence or confidence. So I don't know if you have any interest talking about that, but the other thing is charisma I get, which is something that you're funny, you're charismatic, and it seems that it's something that you developed actually sort of as a shield in a way, but it's become a great asset and a tool for you as well.
Yeah.
And so, they come to me saying, I'm worried I'm too boring or uninteresting. And then I start to, well, you're already starting off on the wrong foot with that thought. So there you go. But there is something to possibly, at least to expressing oneself more and making an attempt to, or be more charismatic. Charisma, there are coaches out there, actually, I'm going to interview one soon that is a charisma coach, believe it or not.
Cool.
But I just would love to hear how you see it as someone that people, including me, see as charismatic, funny, all that. What does it mean, and how does that kind of look to you? And how might you, what would you say to somebody that says, how can I be more charismatic like you, Jason?
Yeah. So the way I am, the way I show up in the world, as far as being charismatic or outgoing, which is funny because I consider myself kind of an introvert, which nobody would guess, I guess, unless they really understand what introverts are. Introvert, I'm sure you know this. Introvert doesn't mean you're shy, right? It's a level of connection and things you do and don't like. And like, I don't like small talk. I'm in my office right now, and they did like a thing where all the people that, have office space here, they came together yesterday, and, I'm a coach and I'm a speaker and I'm this guy where, you and I are talking and I'm, fucking full of energy and I love this and I could do this for days. And I get in that room with these people and I'm just standing off by myself to the side, eating my piece of pizza. Like I have no desire to like walk up and open conversations with people and like, but then at some point a conversation starts around me, and then they get into something that I think is interesting. This guy's getting ready to have his first baby and he's like on, labor watch, and now I'm interested, and now I want to talk more. So anyways, I feel like my charisma comes natural to me in the right situations, right? When I'm in a place where I feel comfortable showing up as that person. I think it is something that can be developed, and I think it is something I developed, like you said, partially as a defense mechanism and being kind of the class clown and putting myself out there. And so it feels very comfortable for me to get out there and dance in the middle of a freaking restaurant or something, embarrass the crap out of my wife, but dance in the car or to make like a funny video in public, like that doesn't bother me at all because it's just become a practice. It's just a habit that I did over time. So I don't think I was born with it. So I think anybody who wants to develop that can do it by slowly getting out of their comfort zone, not going from here to here, right? But going from here to like right here and just testing that out. But the bigger question I would ask is, why do they think they need to be charismatic? What is it about being more charismatic that they think affords them something they don't have now? And if it is something about being more charismatic to connect with people, you and I have both met Steve Hardison, and he doesn't have to say much, and you feel a pretty deep connection with him. He's not walking in the room, big personality like me and really boisterous and overzealous. He's much more stoic and calm, and yet he creates a really deep connection with you within a minute. Same thing with Bill Clinton. People say when you shake Bill Clinton's hand, it feels like everything else goes away and it's just the two of you in a room together. So if the goal is to have deeper connections with people, then work on having deeper connections with people. If the goal is to be more charismatic because you think it would be fun, well, cool. You can do that too by practicing it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people come to me too with the deeper connection, which is my forte. Actually, that's what I always have sought, especially when I was way more awkward and socially anxious and shy. I told the story the other day when I was growing up, because I'm also a musician.
A great one, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My ego loves it. I always would say, I want to use my music to express, I have a message or communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And really I meant connect by that.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is so true. It's so interesting that what we most want is already within us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nature of like desire to me. It's already there. And then we maybe have trouble expressing that. And I think people tend to want to be more charismatic because they end up sitting there and saying nothing. And it's really about expression, which I think is a more superficial level of connection. So it's like charisma, expression, that. So I think it's a beautiful question you present to anyone listening is, why do you want to be more charismatic, less boring? And what's really going on? What do you really, really want? Maybe you do want that, but usually it's about, because when we're in connection with people and when we're in that flow, like we're not thinking about it. Should I be more charismatic? Should I be more confident? Should I be? It's like we're just as one almost in the conversation, right? Kind of like we are now. I mean, although not that we don't have our insecure thoughts come up here and there, but it's like, or whatever thoughts, but it's like, who's here?
Yeah, absolutely. And you nailed it too, because one of the things that I think is a big part of the connection thing, and what I think, Hardison and Bill Clinton and people that are really good at connecting are really adept at, and I think it's a practice, I don't think they're born with it, is, this distinction. I was working with my group on this of Ted versus Ting, right? And it sounds like a white guy versus a Chinese guy in a chess match, Ted versus Ting. But what it is, it's, are you interested or are you interesting, right? And I think when people say, like, how can I be more charismatic? It's, again, the ego talking, and it's because we want to appear more interesting, as opposed to what we could do, which doesn't require any more charisma, it just requires love and attention, is to be more interested in the person in front of us.
I love that. I actually, I used to do this thing called picking up.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I took a course called Charisma Arts by a guy named Wayne Elise. And it was the only pickup workshop, which was really about being social and connecting, that was of any worth. And I still use it today. And he says, if you go up, talk to somebody, shake their hand, smile, touch them on the shoulder, ask a couple of questions, and they're going to be like, that guy was really interesting. Because he was interested.
Totally.
He's like, do it, it'll work. Like, and of course we don't want to turn into a technique and a false kind of superficial thing, but that's how it really can work, because people love feeling listened to. They love it. It's just so amazing that, and it's too, and the perfect example is the guy on the date with the girl, and the guy talks too much, and doesn't ask her questions or doesn't listen, and it's just all about him. Either because he's a narcissist or because he doesn't know what else to do. When the woman, the connection is in so much more than that. There's examples everywhere, and I think that's so crucial.
Yeah. If the ego's in the way, man, the connection is just not going to get there. The ego, the need to be interesting just creates distance, whereas the ability to be curious and get interested creates intimacy. And so, to me, that's the big difference. Do you want to create distance, or do you want to create intimacy?
Yeah. I remember once being at a party with a bunch of comedian actors, and I was sitting there going, everybody's trying to outdo each other, and I'm like, this is so boring.
Yeah,
they were all having fun in their own worlds, trying to be more interesting than the other one, I think, but I don't think anybody was connecting.
Yeah. Yeah. And even that, if you peel that back, there's probably so much insecurity there, right?
Oh,
Having to be the funniest person in the group of comedians. That's like, I could either shut up and be quiet and then everybody just thinks I suck at what I do, or I'm too intimidated, or I can just go over the top and try to force myself to be the funniest one. And then I'm just like them and we're all fighting and nobody really is making any headway.
yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. So what do you think about this thing about confidence? What is that? Has it ever been a concern for you? Or, it's been a huge thing for me. And I know one of our mentors and co-partner participant with Steve Chandler, Rich Litvin, has been his thing too. Right? He has a site called That Confidence Guy.
Yeah.
That's where I really resonate with Rich.
Yeah.
Anything to do around that, if somebody's like, how can I be more confident,
Yeah, I guess it also depends, what the definition of confidence is. But I know that for me, there are still plenty of times where I feel like I lack confidence. And it's not necessarily in big things. It could be in little things. It could be in, I remember a week and a half ago, I had to go return some vitamins to the store. And I just felt like I had this weird confidence issue, like they were going to think I was weird or something, bringing back the vitamins. And,
that's called social anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird because then I'll go on stage in front of a group of people and be fine. And so, we're human. And so this stuff comes up. And so I think, for me, it's I've gotten pretty good at when I am feeling some kind of social anxiety that I can relax myself and ground myself pretty quickly by slowing down. Just slowing everything down that's going on in that moment, by breathing and by really just kind of feeling my weight into my feet or into a chair or, wherever I'm at, just to kind of feel more grounded. And it's almost like in my head, when people say slow down, I know sometimes it doesn't resonate because it's like, well, how do you do that? It's like, tell me how to breathe. Like, there's no way, you just breathe, right? And so slowing down is kind of that way. But for me, the kind of the visceral thing that I do is I'll almost picture my heart rate slowing down. I don't know if it actually does, but to me, when I say I want to slow down in the moment, I'll picture my heart rate slowing down, like somebody's actually hitting like slow motion on a VCR where like everything's slow. Like my movements could be in my head. My movements are slower. My speech slows down because I talk fast as hell, and my heart rate slows. When I can do that in the moment, and it takes 3 seconds. When I can do that in the moment, then the lack of confidence goes away. I don't need confidence at that point. I just don't have a lack of confidence anymore. I'm back to just being the real me, and that's enough.
Beautiful. I love that. Because that's so much how I talk about it and teach it, is that the confidence is already there, but for the thoughts and limiting beliefs and whatever that are crusting over the top of it.
Yeah, totally.
And trying to be confident is kind of like trying to slow down, which to me is an internal thing. Like we try to slow down physically, and inside we're like we haven't really slowed down.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a little theme here of being interested in what's really going on with you, with your mind, and connecting back to yourself.
Yeah.
We tend to be disconnected. We tend to be like out here and getting curious, interested, like a scientist that's having fun as much as possible. Like, what's this little game here I can play of like, okay, so what is this lack of confidence thing? What's really going on here?
Yeah.
How am I making this shit up?
Yeah.
In order to feel and experience that. It's been a huge battle for me.
Yeah.
And when I experience it, what I realize is it's just not me.
Right.
Just a bunch of thoughts that I somehow picked up that still come and go, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to be morbid about this, but recently I've started keeping a list of people, typically famous people, just because there's more information around it, but people who have died really young, right? So like Sheryl Sandberg, her husband, Dave Goldberg, no relation, just passed away at 47.
Keep it in the family, baby.
Keep it in the family. Keep it. Uncle Bill, the wrestler, and the guy from, and the Mighty Ducks goalie was Goldberg, and that was when I was a teenager. I was super fat. Yeah, that was great for me. Anyways, but so I've started keeping this list of people like him, 47 years old, CEO of a big company, dropped that out of nowhere, and I keep that list on my phone, and I'll look at it once in a while, especially if I'm having, some kind of down moment, and just be like, it's not that fucking serious.
Yep.
It's not, none of it. Talking to that girl, reaching out to that potential client, saying something bold to a client that you have, having a difficult conversation with a family member or a boss. It's not that fucking serious, because at the end, you're still going to be alive. And Dave Goldberg, 47, CEO of SurveyMonkey, cannot say that.
Boom, blown away again by Jason Goldberg. Take that, people. I mean, it's like, you see it all as a cosmic joke. It's not that serious.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
I mean, it sort of is. How do we get here? What is this? I can see it as a big, serious, painful, suffering thing, or I can see it as a big, fun joke, whatever.
Yeah. I heard it. There was some movie, and I cannot remember what movie it was. I don't think it was Dogma. No, I don't remember what movie it was. But somebody talking about that we were God's experiment, that we're just an ant farm.
Mm.
And then he created the ant farm, threw all the ants in it. Now he's just kind of sitting back watching. He's like, oh, that's cool. Let me see what they do with this. Oh man, they made that way more serious. I just gave them a playground, and look how fucking crazy they're going. And I kind of like that visual, not because I don't believe that there's a higher power that has some kind of influence on us, but because it's just more fun to look at it as we were given whatever we were given, and now it's up to us what we do with it. And it can be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. I was going to ask you about a powerful story, and I think you told one of a client you worked with that, was really impacted by what you do. I mean, of course they're going to be impacted, but some cool story, some success or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So for some reason just now, and I didn't think about this one until just now, but based on what we're talking about, especially with confidence and things like that, I was just thinking about a woman that I coached who was she didn't have social anxiety per se. She definitely didn't have confidence issues. She's pretty damn confident, but that maybe have been a downfall for her. But she was getting into coaching. Her background was in counseling and so more traditional counseling and treatment. And the big disconnect for her, which I'm sure a lot of us here can relate to, was the vulnerability piece, right? And it goes right back to what we were talking about creating intimacy or creating distance. And what she was having trouble seeing at first was that the power that she showed up with, because like I said, she's a bold, confident, super, super smart woman with a big heart at the same time. Like I'm saying that she's this bold, confident, super, strong woman, and she cries at the drop of a hat. I mean, it's not like she's just like this all masculine energy with no feminine. She had all of it. But when she would get around a prospect or get around people that were, in her circle that weren't her family, even people that she worked with or people that were kind of acquaintances, there was this big wall that she put up in between her and them. And she didn't see how, in the beginning, how being more vulnerable could create those deeper relationships, because it's scary, right? Like, what if we put ourselves out there more vulnerable and we get rejected, right? What if people think something of us? And so one of the key things we worked on, which is, again, a lot of Chandler's work with owner victim, is that we can't be rejected.
Yeah.
Right. We can't be offended. We can't be rejected. We can't be made upset.
Anti-fragility. I love when he talked about anti-fragility.
Yes, anti-fragility. Huge. But we can offend ourselves. We can reject ourselves, but nobody outside of us can reject us. Right.
That's right.
I bring that up because of, when we want more confidence and we want more this and we want more that, it's because we think it's a safeguard against being rejected. Right. Or at least partially. And so to kind of really get into that, you can be as vulnerable as you want and know that you're never offering up to anybody to be rejected. Then you're safe. You're inherently safe. Yeah. And when she started doing that, it was amazing for her to see the level of connection she made with people that were right there in her circle every day. The teachers in the teacher lounge, she was a counselor at a school that she had never made connections with. She shared one story about something going on in her life with her daughter, and boom, like everything opened up and they had these deep connections. And one of them ended up saying, this is a whole deep, intricate story I won't go into, but there's one thought leader out there that my client really wanted to connect with, and she's pretty big. She's somebody that you don't just call up on the phone. She's a pretty big name in the personal development industry. And by opening up and talking to this woman said, she actually raised me from the time I was 7 to the time I was 14.
No way. That's great.
And this woman isn't even in this country. That woman, that thought leader, is in a different country. And so just opening up created this new opportunity, these new possibilities that she never would have had if she would have kept that wall up. So for what that's worth, I think that's a really fun story.
Be honest, it's the British Oprah, right?
It is the British Oprah. I wish I could tell. Her book is actually usually on the shelf, but it's off there right now because I'm reading it again. So
it's all good. I'm joking. I'm not going to pry, but I'll get it after the interview. No,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you after the interview.
Powers. That's an amazing story, and vulnerability is definitely a huge thing. And I do tell people to be more vulnerable. It's never been a difficulty for me that I've known of. People say, "You're so vulnerable," and I go, "Well, I'm not trying to be vulnerable." Or know, how I met my good friend Amir and his now wife was bawling at a Rich Litvin event. It's like, and we just connected, but I just couldn't help it, sort of,
Yeah.
And so I like what Steve Chandler says about that. And yet there is something to it. And then of course it can be overdone, as we have seen.
Yes.
It becomes this facade of who can be more vulnerable and all this kind of crap, which I know. So to me, it comes down to connection again. It's all part of connection is what it seems like to me as well.
Yeah.
And I think for someone, I mean, it's amazing though, just to see, she had to do was share a story about her day and this whole new vortex of reality opened up.
Yeah. Yeah. She saw that she didn't die. She wasn't rejected, and she couldn't be anyways, but she wasn't rejected. And she actually had a deeper connection with this person and the opportunity to connect with somebody that she's been wanting to connect with for over a year. And it just goes to show, and this is your mileage may vary. I'm not saying if you go share a story with somebody, it's going to open you up and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, Tony Robbins speed dial. Here you go. Here, talk to him." But the fact is that the more we get into the habit of recognizing that we can be open about ourselves, we don't have to try, like you said, you don't try to be vulnerable. You just don't think about being hurt by sharing your truth. It's not as much of a concern. And maybe it is concern sometimes. I'm sure I have moments where I'm concerned about sharing certain parts of myself. It may have flowed off my tongue when I said it, but there's always a little bit of a racing heartbeat when I talk about having some suicidal thoughts. That's not something I talk about like, yeah, it's 72 degrees today. And I thought about committing suicide a couple of times. That's not easy for me, but it doesn't hold the same weight and same significance that it may have in the past, because I know I'm just sharing a part of who I am and it doesn't define me. It's just a part of the story.
That's right. We're creating it from the inside out.
Yeah, baby. What will you create today?
Ooh. Dude, we're the whitest two guys ever. That was awesome.
No, seriously, dude. This is ridiculous. Like,
dude, okay. I'm so white, I'm pink. So beat that.
Well, I like your, but you're like tannish pink.
It's not. It's just straight up pink because it's kind of warm in here, and I'm just blown over by your awesomeness. So I'm a little nervous,
You're medium rare.
So, tell us about how people can find you, subscribe to you. They want more. I'll make sure to put links in the video, and also if there's any programs or coaching or anything you want people to know about.
Cool. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to connect with me is on Facebook. That's kind of my spot that I hang out. So you can find me on Facebook. You can look up Jason Goldberg, or you can look up Meometry, which is the name of my company. It's like geometry with an M, like Mary. You can find me at meometry.com. But yeah, Facebook is a great way to connect. I'm running stuff. I'm doing a lot of stuff with coaches right now. I have a program that's launching with EverCoach later this month. So if anybody watching this is a coach, it's a really cool training platform we're doing where I'm interviewing people like Steve Chandler and like Rich Litvin and actually having them coach somebody live on the call. And then we're doing a debrief at the end to kind of demystify and pick apart why they did what they did during the session, which is really cool. I'm really excited about that because I don't think coaches have a cool way to be like a fly on the wall of a powerful coaching conversation. So I'm excited about that. And otherwise, just doing a lot of speaking, writing my book, and just happy to serve and do anything I can to continue the conversation and to support the work you're doing, David, which is amazing. And I love that you've created this outlet and this channel for people to come in and really get help around these things that may have been challenges. And I feel like you're helping them to recognize that they don't have to be that challenging.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Love you, brother. So awesome to have you here today. And I think we're done. We are complete.
I love you.
We'll see you next time.
Later.
Later. Peace.